literally sounds like the amp is going to blow up. Cool. Howdy folks, this is Shane. This is going to be a bit of an in-depth review / critical review of the brand new Fender Mustang GT200. If you came here for just favorable facts, that's not what this video is all about. I don't work for Fender. I don't work for any music company or shop or anything like that. I actually went out and purchased this amp. If you're unfamiliar with my channel, you should also YouTube search Mustang Monday. I'll put that up in the card so you can check that out as well. One thing that sets my channel apart from other channels is I actually know the version 2 amplifiers back to front. I made loads of patches that everyone downloaded, and they're some of the most downloaded in the world from the Fender Fuse website. With the help of Rick and Brian, who are two of my friends that also contributed to these patches, we were able to copy some boutique amps, and some of those patches are still really popular to this day. So how does this new GT compare? That's what we're going to get into. I'm going to actually use this at gig volume, so it's going to be up pretty loud. We're going to go through some of the presets. I'm going to tell you where I think its strengths are, where I think they might have screwed up, and whether or not it's worth you upgrading. We're also going to take a look at the features, including the app and its pros and cons as well, and where I think Fender should just do things a little bit different on the next revision of this amp, or maybe somewhere in the software they could tweak it a little better to make better use of the foot switch. We'll get into that as well. There's certain things I think this amp does better. We're going to get into that. And there's certain things I think this amp falls short. This won't be a 100% favorable review like a lot of shops and other people who are cozy with companies. This is actual facts. I urged my entire subscriber base of around 63,000 people recently to hold off buying one until you see this video. I hope this is helpful. If it is, please share it around. I hope to answer all the frequently asked questions I've seen on YouTube over the last few days, so this should cover most of that. If I have missed anything from this video, please let me know in the comments and I'm happy to do a follow-up video. All right, let's get into it. How do the presets sound straight off the bat? They sound great. If you like Fender clean tones, you're definitely gonna love this amplifier. So that's with the tube screamer and also some analog delay on. If you're into more heavier and distorted tones, I'm not sure you're gonna dig it. The drive sounds don't sound as 3D as the clean sounds. And what I mean by that is the supersonic patch, for example, sounds very hi-fi. It's like you're listening to it through a set of hi-fi speakers as opposed to having your amp in a room and you actually playing guitar. It's hard to explain. If you've ever just jammed along to a CD player at home and you've got, decent speakers at home, that's what it sounds like. The drive sounds kind of approximate a little bit of a hi-fi sound, which I don't think it's got the same knock as the old amps. It just doesn't jump out as much on the dirty tones. If you're a blues guy or you like jazz and country, all that kind of stuff, and you want a great clean platform, it is a really great clean platform for using the presets that are built into the amp. That's actually pretty awesome. The back of the amp features two XLR outs, so it's a stereo XLR out. You got left and right, you can go into a mixer or recording device and record with stereo effects. That's pretty cool. The GT40 doesn't actually have this, so you have to get either the GT100 or GT200. One other huge flaw I see in what Fender have done this time is in relation to the foot switch. The GT200 is the only one that has the foot switch, and it comes with the 4-button foot switch. In the previous generation, the Mustang 3 came with a 2-button foot switch, and the 4 and 5 came with the 4-button, and you also had the versatility of being able to run both. So you could set up some effects on this one, use tap tempo and delay or whatever on the other one, or however you want to run it. These particular amps don't have that functionality. It's one pedal and one pedal only. If you buy the Mustang GT100, you're not going to get one of these. In Australia, these are just over $100. So the price difference between the amps, I just decided to get the one with the foot switch. One thing I hate about this particular foot switch configuration, every time you turn it on, you have to make sure you're on the effects option by using this button to get down to it. If you're in the loop mode and then you've got to go back to the effects mode, you have to essentially click it 1, 2, 3 more times to get back to it as well. It's kind of frustrating. If you're playing live and you're using this and you don't have it on the effects thing, but that's what you hope to have it on, you're actually going to scroll through patches. That's a huge downer. I hope this is corrected on a firmware upgrade coming up, so the software can basically lock the pedal into a certain mode, and when you turn your amp off and back on, it stays on that particular mode. I hope they do this. Thinking about this a little more, I kind of feel like Fender might have just decided, you know what, most people will probably just save their 3 favorite presets and they'll be done with it. For me personally, I like to use the Mustang like I would any other amp. I see this as my effects pedals on the ground, and then I see my amp as an actual amplifier, not something that I'm going to be scrolling through 109 presets. It doesn't interest me. I want to set up my favorite sound and just use that and that only. You can do that, but like I said, if you're not on the effects section when you hit one of these buttons, good luck. You never know what's going to turn up. Another huge disadvantage to this pedal is that tap tempo for, say, delays and whatever else isn't available in 2 out of the 3 modes, which totally sucks. The way this particular pedal works is you can stack more than one overdrive together, but it will become whatever's in the first order. So if you've got 2 overdrives and a delay, you'll get 2 overdrives and a delay. And whatever else you set up after that, you can't actually turn it on and off without going over to the amp and then fiddling around with the amp or fiddling around with the app. To me, that kind of makes all this extra functionality redundant. You almost need a foot switch with more buttons. So I'm hearing most of these heavier sounds as sounding not very 3D in my opinion. It just sounds, like I said before, like you're listening through a hi-fi speaker. Oh, that's actually kind of fun. How does the Fender Mustang handle pedals, and how does it compare to, say, a PV Bandit? I know I'm going to get a lot of these questions. Look, I'm going to say this as brutally honest as I can. The PV Bandit wipes the floor with this amplifier in terms of using it as a clean platform with pedals. It sounds very, very much like a tube amp. This sounds very, very much like a digital modeling amp that can't handle pedals. I've seen some videos online from popular channels and shops and all that kind of stuff where they were using external effects. I'm almost certain there must have been some post-production stuff going on, because realistically, these don't sound great with pedals. Let's start with the PV Bandit on clean. Left side of the Royal Flush. Over to the 65 twin preset on the Mustang, and I've got that pretty clean. Here's the clean tone. Left side of the Royal Flush. Bandit. And now with the Wampler Tumnus pedal on in conjunction with the Royal Flush. So here we go, this is still a Bandit. Over to the Mustang. In terms of the user interface on the amplifier, I find it to be a little more clunky and a little less intuitive than the prior version of the amplifier. The foot switch essentially has 3 buttons that will activate different effects if you have it in that particular mode. I really miss having those options on the front of the amp. If you forget the foot switch and you've got a gig, there's no way to turn those effects on and off other than fiddling around with either the menu or turning your phone on and Bluetoothing it, all of that kind of stuff. It's a huge disadvantage of these amps is not being able to just walk over and click the delays on and off or whatever presets you've got going on from the front of the amp. That's kind of a deal breaker almost for me. One of the great things about this amp is it has a global EQ section. So you can essentially go into the menu and make all the patches less bright or less bassy or whatever you want. So that actual option is awesome. I don't recall seeing that on the previous versions. When you have a new amp like this, they sound pretty bright to start with until the speakers break in. I don't know how much they're gonna break in. Cool. So who should buy one of these amplifiers? If you already own a Mustang 3 or Mustang 4, whatever, version 2, then it's probably not worth upgrading. In my opinion, the 3s and 4s are still great amps for using at home and using at gigs. If you like the sound that you've got with it, don't go upgrading. If you don't own a Fender Mustang already, then maybe go for the new one. I say that because you're kind of future-proofing some of the upgrades and updates and all of that kind of stuff. But there's nothing wrong with the 3s and 4s and 5s from the version 2 amplifiers. You should be able to pick them up for an absolute bargain on the second-hand market. One of the cool things about this amplifier is you can hook it up directly to your home Wi-Fi and you can update the firmware that way. You don't need to hook it up to a computer via USB and get all different types of software to get it to work. It will do it through part of the menu. This is actually a really cool thing, and it's better for those people who aren't as technically savvy. One of the downsides to the Fender Fuse software, and I think most people might agree, it was a little overcomplicated and not as intuitive. It's kind of how I feel about some of the menu options on this particular amplifier. But that said, having this option to upgrade your firmware is definitely a really great option. What are some of the pros and cons of using your phone or tablet with this particular amplifier? So some of the things that I've noticed with it is it's not quite perfect. When we were doing the Supersonic patch recently in our AB video with Brian, I kept selecting a 212 Supersonic cab, I kept selecting a 412 one, and I 100% was pushing the right thing. He tried it as well, and we were like, this isn't working, what's going on? So I had to disconnect, reconnect, turn it off and turn it back on. And also sometimes Bluetooth will drop without warning. It's not that common, but it happened a few times while we were doing those videos. Another thing to keep in mind too, if your phone goes into standby mode, you'll need to reconnect it via the settings in the app. So that particular thing is a huge pain in the ass as well. If you think you can just turn your phone off and then it will still be connected when you turn it back on, think again. That needs to be fixed as well. I wish it was paired kind of like Bluetooth headphones, where if you turn off your screen, it's still gonna work. That should just be how this works. That's, you know, that's how I would have designed it. All in all, these are a fairly decent amp for those folks who just like to plug in and play. I like the fact you can stack more than one overdrive pedal in the chain, but it also has its drawbacks in terms of how much you can control using the foot switch. I think this amp will sound great for those folks who like to play clean and like to play blues and country and all of that kind of stuff. I think its limitations and drawbacks are some of the heavier sounds. They just sound too hi-fi for my ear. Don't think you can't take this amp to a gig and get a great tone. If you're like me, you can probably dial in a sound that you like, that you're happy with, and you'll keep it on that one. These type of amps can give you option paralysis as well. So what I mean by that is there's so many options and things you can configure, it will actually do your head in. You'll spend more time playing with all the controls and tones than actually playing music, and I think that's a drawback as well. My suggestion would be to do what I'm going to do with it, is set up a great clean or off clean tone, one overdrive pedal, a delay, and whatever else, a modulation tone, and stick with that. If you get bored, you can mix it up, of course, but maybe set 2 or 3 of your favorite type of amp presets and patches and have it in a way that works intuitively in conjunction with the foot switch. Couple of wrong notes in there, but all good. If you're playing in a cover band, you can set up as many sounds as you like and just scroll through them. So that's a great option for people who are in cover bands. This amp will definitely do a lot of that kind of stuff. Playing in bigger venues is not a problem thanks to the XLR outputs as well. Playing at home is also awesome as well. You can get a decent sound at a low volume as well, but it just doesn't have that huge punch it gets once you crank it up, and that's obvious. You can also stream music from your phone via Bluetooth or via the auxiliary straight into the amp. That's a pretty cool option. You can jam along and do all that kind of stuff as well. All in all, I feel a little bit like, these are good but not fantastic amplifiers. For those who are seriously considering buying one of these and you own a Mustang 3 or 4, take that amp to the shop and test out your favorite patches against this. One thing Fender did right this time, they actually have the presets sounding relatively good. I think all of the initial first 10 sound pretty great. And that's an easy place to start adding effects and all that kind of stuff to get your signature sound. Option paralysis is going to be a huge problem for some people with this amp, not knowing what they get, but I am going to be uploading a whole lot of custom preset patches for this as well for Mustang Monday, so stay tuned for that. Thanks again for watching, folks, and this is my honest and critical thoughts about this particular amp, because a lot of shops are more interested in selling stuff, and other YouTubers just like getting cozy with companies, so they keep sending stuff. I actually went out and bought this with my own money, so I hope you appreciate how much this cost me to make this series of videos. I'm not sure how that's coming up on the recording, but this actually sounds pretty great in the room. If you found this informative, share it around, give it the thumbs up, all that kind of stuff, and don't forget to subscribe and click the bell. Thanks again, my name's Shane, I'll catch you soon. See ya.